A lot has happened in tech this week, including OpenAI's first device. Here's what you missed. All right, so let's start with OpenAI's first hardware device. It's rumored to be a screenless speaker. It's a mobile smart speaker with integrated AI capabilities. So imagine a speaker with ChatGPT included. It's screen-free and has somewhat of a worrying phrase, human-like AI companion. It's a human-like AI companion that lives in the home. I'm not so sure that is an exact selling point for OpenAI. They want to launch it, or there have been rumors that they'd want to launch their own phone. I'd also heard there's rumors that they want to launch their own version of earbuds. I think this strategy of being a few different devices is working out quite well for them, and they're testing to see which appetite is biggest. They've noted there's mechanical elements that can move on their own, which again, potentially a bit of a concerning statement. You probably want a speaker that's a bit more static. Now, this is where it gets a little bit interesting because the article notes that help from many former Apple engineers who were instrumental in helping build it. Now, about a week or two ago, Apple sued OpenAI for stealing trade secrets related to Apple engineers who'd left and had taken parts and knowledge and trade secrets from Apple into OpenAI. So what to take away from this? It feels a bit underwhelming for OpenAI's first device, if I'm being honest. So I try to think about what the speakers might look like, and you can see it's pretty run-of-the-mill, nothing too inspiring. Now, granted, these are all just illustrations or potential examples of what it could look like. But, I mean, unless it's really innovative, it's hard to imagine how it could be too different. All right, the next story comes from 1X Technology, which designs humanoid hands that can match or surpass human capabilities today. Or at least that's what they claim. It'll be part of their first robot they ship, a model called Neo, and they aim to ship it later this year. There's 25 joints. That's giving it 25 degrees of movement. I believe humans have around 27, so it's not too dissimilar. From that, if you see some of the videos that were shared online, it's pretty nimble. It has both the kind of strength and the dexterity to do smaller tasks as well. It also was kind of there's later parts in the video where it gets hit, and it's relatively good at just powering through. So pretty impressive. Again, it's a demo video, so let's see what it's like in real life as well. The aim is to mimic the biological structure of a human hand in the sense where a lot of the motors and kind of the horsepower is put in the structure's forearm, which is very similar to the way humans operate and our hands as well. Can do a lot of the nimble stuff that we've talked about already. It has a skin, which I guess makes it a bit more human and also offers some protection. And they aim to ship around 10,000 of these hands this year, so I guess 5,000 as a set. And I think probably the big thing to take away is that it feels like this moment is building for robots and the final pieces are being put together for them to have a really important 2026 and 2027. In a way, I think that AI had 4 or 5 years ago. All right, onto some market news. DeepSeek, the Chinese AI model company, is looking to IPO for around $74 billion, a valuation of around $74 billion sometime this year. They'll do it on the Shanghai Star Market, which is very similar to the US version of NASDAQ. It's quite tech heavy. Interestingly enough, they just raised around $7.5 billion via private market and private capital. So I think the amount they're looking to raise in this IPO, during their IPO, is around $1.5–2 billion. So the amount is actually quite a lot less than what they raised in the private markets most recently. Again, aiming to do it sometime this year. And I guess it's somewhat forgotten that maybe about a year ago or a year and a half ago, that DeepSeek pretty much kneecapped and wiped out a ton of market valuations and market cap from a lot of the big AI providers. NVIDIA and others just fell off a cliff because DeepSeek came along with this version of its AI model that was as effective, using a lot less data on training for them and compute overall. And it somewhat shook the market. Now, granted, it has not maintained that. I would say actually a $74 billion valuation for probably the leading AI company outside of the Western world, at least. It's not huge. It's not an enormous amount. Now, maybe Alibaba, some will say, is actually that version. They're public in the US as well, so maybe I don't count them fully. But I don't know. It didn't blow me away in terms of their valuation. But their growth has been very impressive. And I think as people get more cost sensitive to tokens, you will see a version of this that changes. Right, next, Stripe and a PE firm are making a $53 billion play for PayPal. Now, PayPal obviously is one of the original fintech and payment providers. I always forget that Elon Musk was involved, and we always talk about the PayPal mafia as well. The offer will come at just over $60 per share. Again, $53 billion. PayPal shares were obviously up for the day. They had to pay around a 28% premium versus what the price was earlier in the week. You obviously always have to pay a bit more if you want to take over a company. So this is probably the more interesting part, where Stripe's valuation itself has gone up, down, and now up again. It was I think 90 billion at some point, then came down to around 50 or 60 billion. Now it's up again to around 159 billion. So it's had its own roller coaster in the exact same way that PayPal, you look at PayPal's share price where they were spun out of eBay in 2015. Shares went up quite a bit during COVID and just after, but then they came back down and they've pretty much traded sideways ever since. And it's been a pretty lackluster earnings as well. So most of their guidance from this year and even previously has been pretty meek. And as a consequence, they've been not rewarded at all by the market. So there will be an interesting opportunity for them to cash out and maybe just to close this book. I think they probably will take it, is my view, but we'll see what the board suggests. All right, that's all for this week. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and would love to know your feedback or other topics I should cover.